What would you do if I came into your house and started dumping gallons and gallons of water into your living room? You'd probably be pretty mad at me. Now, what would you do if this water was filled with chemicals and pesticides and disease-causing bacteria? You'd probably be really mad at me then. Because that's your house, that's where you live. You don't want disease-causing bacteria inside of your house. Well, sadly, that's the reality for a lot of fish and wildlife as a result of stormwater systems. Now, stormwater systems are designed to take stormwater, which is just water that originates from rain or snow melt or ice melt. It's designed to take that water and direct it away from roads and into the nearest waterway. And that's without filtration, without treatment. It just takes the water directly from the road and dumps it into the nearby ocean, river, lake, creek, whatever it may be. And what is so dangerous about that is what goes into that little grate on the side of the road and all the surfaces that the water hits on its way to that grate. So using this diagram, it's a little bit easier to kind of picture what I'm saying. So when stormwater runs off of your roof, it's going to pick up little pieces of material and debris from the shingles, and it's going to pick up some of the chemicals that are on the shingles that are used to help protect those shingles from the elements. And that's going to eventually make its way down to your gutters and into the storm drain. And when water comes off of your driveway or the roadway, it's going to pick up leftover chemicals from oil spills or gas spills from leaky vehicles. And it's also going to pick up things like detergents from car washes. And when stormwater runs off of the lawn, it's going to pick up things like pet waste, it's going to grab the nitrogen from fertilizers, and it's going to grab the pesticides. And to put that into perspective, the US alone uses 70 million pounds of pesticides to treat their lawns. And that doesn't even include farmland. That's a ton, and that's just in 1 year. 70 million pounds a year over the course of 10 years, that's insane. That's so many pesticides, and majority of those pesticides are making their way into the nearest waterway without treatment. So this is a huge danger to fish and to humans alike. So fish will oftentimes mistake the debris that makes its way into these stormwater systems for food. These grates that you see on the side of the road, you'll often see are just littered with trash. There'll be cigarette butts and pieces of plastic. Well, the fish will mistake that for food, and they'll eat it, and eventually they will die as a cause of it. And the EPA has done studies where they cut open the stomachs of these fish, and they find things like cigarette butts and small pieces of plastic. And similarly with the disease-causing bacterias and the chemicals and the pesticides, the fish live in these waters, and they literally breathe the oxygen out of the water. And because of that, they're breathing in these awful chemicals and pesticides and things like that, and it leads to death. And one of the important things to think about is the fact that humans are consuming these fish as well. So it does wind up affecting us too. It might be easy to kind of disconnect ourselves from it, but we do eat the fish. It is a source of food for us, and we also drink that water. So you can see how that would affect us, because if the fish are exposed to these chemicals, then we are also exposed to these chemicals when we eat them. And another way that this is affecting humans is swimming. Obviously, especially living in the Great Lakes area, there is nothing better than having a nice beach day and getting to go swim in the lake. But sometimes you might get to the beach and see a sign that says the beach is closed because the bacteria levels are too high. Well, that's oftentimes a result of stormwater systems. And Santa Monica Bay did a study that showed that people who were swimming directly near a flowing stormwater pipe were 50% more likely to develop symptoms than people who were swimming just 400 yards away from that stormwater pipe. And these symptoms include things like nausea, fever, rash, diarrhea, and these are all symptoms that are related with exposure to chemicals and to disease-causing bacteria. So, in order to make a difference, there are plenty of things that can be done. Little things, small things, things that cost money, and things that cost no money at all. And it all just depends on how much of a difference that you want to make. But it's easy, just one simple step can make such a difference. Anything like cleaning up the grates. If you have a grate in front of your house, if you just go out there maybe once a week and clean up the trash that's around it, it's going to make such a difference, because instead of that trash finding its way into the waterway, it's going to find its way into a landfill where it's properly disposed of. And similarly, you can sweep your driveway instead of hosing it down, and that's going to prevent those chemicals and particles from making their way into the stormwater systems. And using like non-toxic materials and making sure that you maintain a nice vehicle and keep an eye out for leaks, and when vehicles do leak, making sure that you clean it up properly. These all make such a difference, and they're really things that we should be doing anyway. And I highly encourage you to do them. And if you would like to take it a step further, you can do things like create a rain garden or utilize rain barrels. And what that means is basically directing your gutters, instead of into a pipe in the ground and then eventually into the stormwater system, you can direct them into a garden or into a rain barrel and use them to water the garden or water your lawn. And it's just a simple way to avoid excess water getting into the stormwater system, and to filter it before it reaches a waterway. So I highly encourage you to tell your friends. If you just tell 2 people about this and they tell 2 people, it can make such a difference. And thank you so much for listening, and I hope you learned a lot.